I'd like to welcome Keith Townsend, Principal at the CTO Advisor. Now, Keith is a technology management consultant with more than 25 years of experience in designing, implementing, and managing data center technologies. His areas of expertise range from virtualization, networking, through storage and technologies for Fortune 500 organizations across the globe. Now, Keith, welcome to this virtual summit, and thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today.
Thanks for having me, James.
You're very, very welcome, and particularly welcome to be here with us today. Now, we've had a great discussion between Richard and Steve, and I have a few questions that I'd really be interested to hear your thoughts on. And the first one is really, when you advise your customers, what are the key challenges that they face when they're considering a cloud migration strategy that includes a private cloud capability like VMware?
Well, you know what? A number of things that actually lend themselves to OCI, the biggest of which is operational change. You know what? The technologies may have changed, but the people and processes are a lot slower. And because of that, we have a very, opposed to what we read in the trade magazines and the media, a very slow uptick for new technologies and a much longer tail for older technologies. It is by far one of the largest barriers to moving your entire landscape to the public cloud.
No, that's interesting. And that's certainly something I think that we see on the Oracle side as well. So it's very interesting to hear that it's tougher to move that longer term investment as quickly as the kind of fabled new stuff. Now, secondly, in your experience with the customers you advise, what is their feedback on Oracle's VMware solution?
Well, you know what? We did a pretty sizable study between the public cloud providers of the day offering VMware as a service in the public cloud, and the feedback has been consistent with what we found in our research, which is Oracle Cloud VMware Solution is what I like to call VMware solutions for experts, or expert mode VMware solution. If you spent the past 15 years perfecting your VMware vSphere operations, Oracle Cloud's solution feels very much the same like your landscape today. So when you couple Oracle's networking capability alongside the VMware solution, it makes for that migration to public cloud, at least for your VMware assets, a lot less friction bound.
Thank you. Keith, given the inquiries that you receive from CTOs on a regular basis who live in the modern enterprise, what is it that you see that differentiates the Oracle Cloud VMware solution from the other offerings that are available in the market today for the enterprise?
Well, I like to say that VMware, and not just VMware, but Oracle Cloud Infrastructure moves at the speed of the CIO. Now, at first, at the beginning of the onset of public cloud and the adoption of public cloud, I meant this as a double-ended insult. But today, it actually makes sense. You have parts of an organization that's doing serverless. And then you have parts of the organization that is still supporting DEC Alpha systems from 20, 30 years ago, and all of it is mission critical. So the CIO has to move at two different speeds, and the Oracle Cloud in general, and the Oracle Cloud VMware solution moves at two different speeds. If you need to stay on vSphere update 3 and 6.7 version of the vSphere, then Oracle will allow you to stay on that as long as it's supported. But if you need to move quickly to vSphere 7.0, Oracle just announced that happened. So, and without the engineering work of the engineers needing to do validation, et cetera, in your own environment, Oracle does that for you. So that kind of mixed mode ability to move fast or move as slow as the enterprise is what I'm hearing CTOs respond to. Oracle moves at the speed of the CIO.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that. Now, it's interesting that you should pick those kind of two modes of speed, because my fourth question, customers often come to cloud from different directions. But what do you see as the key use case options that are opened up for them when they're approaching a cloud strategy that begins with VMware, and particularly around those two two speeds that you just mentioned?
Well, you know what? This is something that VMware is embracing in vSphere version 7.0 and the industry at large, recognizing that, you know what, my Oracle-based, meaning Oracle database-based applications aren't going anywhere. Oracle database is actually, I don't know if you know this, it's a pretty decent database. And a lot of the transactional and mission critical data resides in those databases. There's no reason to change that. A lot of that lives in VMware on vSphere. At the same time, we're building serverless applications based on containers that access that data. Then we're using cloud native services like functions as a service, object storage, autonomous databases to complement these technologies. And this is the thing that CTOs get excited about. We can put our rock solid mission critical applications inside of a compartment in Oracle. That networking looks very much like the networking that we have today. Then we can take these cloud native applications, whether it's me bringing something like an OpenFAS or a Tanzu and sitting that on top of VMware or putting that type on top of a OCI VM, and then bring along with that all of these modern application architectures and build applications that I can actually support. That's the exciting part of the conversation around OCI, OCVS, and public cloud in general.
Thank you, Keith. That's fantastic. Very interesting. I guess as a takeaway for all of us who are listening today, and indeed learning from your experience in the process, what do you think are the key things that customers should be, in your opinion, considering when they're trying to choose the right VMware cloud solution for them?
Well, as you mentioned in the introduction, I've been doing this for about 25 years, and the technologies may have changed, but the drivers haven't. People, process, technology, and of course, total cost of ownership. Total cost of ownership is fed by these other three pillars. If you think about your traditional VMware landscape, you have built an entire data center operating model on this over the past 15 years. That long tail does not change. Procurement, provisioning, security, compliance, all of these are built off of the construct of a VM running in a VMware vSphere environment. People, process, technology, all of that will drive total cost of ownership. If I've designed my data center acquisition and operations around the VM as the center of cost model, and I can over provision storage, I can over provision network, I can over provision compute and memory, I can't necessarily do that in traditional cloud services. So if I take my technology and just plump it dead into the public cloud without considering those factors, my costs go awry. People, process, technology, always the core when considering migrations and innovation, and Oracle Cloud in general embraces the reality of the enterprise IT speed. Oracle OCI moves at the speed of the CIO.
We certainly try to, Keith. Thank you ever so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for your explanation and sharing your experience with us.
Thanks for having me.